everyone, welcome back to my channel Books with Natasa. Today we'll be filming my favorite books of 2021. So let's get straight into it. I decided I want to film a video today because I had a little bit of time. It's Christmas day today and I was having a really good hair day, so I decided I will film this sort of small video for you guys. I have about 14-15 books to talk about, so most of it I have talked about a lot, but let's get straight in. The first book I will talk about you probably have already guessed, but that book is Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. This has become one of my all-time favorite books of the year, and I can't wait to read more of Penelope Douglas in the future. She writes incredible taboo romance, and I really am glad that I decided to pick up her book this and start with this particular one, because it was such an age gap forbidden slow burn romance, and it was exactly what I needed. This book follows Jordan, and who is 19 years old and is having she's basically living a way more mature life than she's supposed to. She has a boyfriend named Cole, but he's so immature, he's the worst. So they start having some economical troubles, and they need to move out of their apartment and stay with his dad. So that's where the romance between Jordan and his dad happens, but there is also an opening scene between the two of them to establish like a connection. So it's so good. And also there is no cheating in this book. I know I've mentioned it before, but in case you guys are wondering, please check out the trigger warnings before you decide to read this book. It doesn't have a lot of graphic content, but it's still a really good book if you enjoy forbidden romance. But I think for me this book changed my preference in romance, and now I'm a sucker for boyfriends, that or forbidden romance type books, and I can't wait to read more in the future. Next book that I read and absolutely adore was The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood, and I have already reread this book like 2 or 3 times already. I loved it so much, and I was hesitant about picking it up because of all the hype surrounding it, and usually with a hype I'm not very it doesn't work for me, except in very special occasions like Akotar series. But this book was truly amazing, and the romance between Oliver and Adam was incredible, and I can't wait to read this book soon. So basically this book follows Olive Smith, who is an postgraduate student who is trying to become a teacher or professor basically, and she's a scientist, and she had one out with this one guy for one date, but it didn't end up liking him. But now her best friend is into him, so in order for her to feel like she can date him, she basically goes and kisses the first guy she sees, so her best friend is convinced that she doesn't have feelings for that guy. So she kisses Adam, who is like this cold, really hard professor, but not her professor. I want to clear that up. But a lot of students around campus hate him because he's super strict and doesn't really help his students a lot. He's very hard on them basically, and their grades. So they start this fake dating romance, and there is also like this complication, which is absolutely incredible, and I loved how Adam handled it and how Holly was also in this book. I really loved their banter and how they keep making jokes about lawsuits and all that stuff. It was super nice. The ending was so incredible, and I can't wait to read the next book by this author. It's going to be with another couple, which is a little bit sad, but who knows, maybe one day she will write more with Adam and Olive. Next is the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy, and this is a sports romance series, and it follows 4 different boys and 4 different girls in each book, and it's truly incredible. The first book is The Deal, and it follows Garrett and Hannah, and it's a fake dating romance. The second book follows Logan and Grace, which is my favorites, and they are so good together, and they have a lot of hard times because Logan doesn't have an easy life. The third one follows Dean and Ali, and it's called The Goal, and the fourth one is called oh my god, I think I've said that wrong. The third one is called something else, and the fourth one is called Gold, and it follows Tucker and Sabrina, which is my second favorite couple, and I really love them. And this follows an unexpected pregnancy, so keep that in mind. Definitely read all the trigger warnings before going into these books, because some of them have alcohol or mention physical abuse or sexual abuse and all of that, so you need to keep that in mind. But every single one of these books is so special, and absolutely adore it. Also, the fifth and final book, I think, came out last month, I believe, and it's called The Legacy, and it has update stories for each one of the couples. It's incredible. So you guys should definitely read this series because it's gaining some hype around the internet right now, and it's totally worth it. It's a new favorite series of mine, and that is the Surviving Time trilogy by Kyla Reid. My friend on Instagram recommended it to me, and I will put her account below if you want to check her out. But this is a time traveling romance, and if you are fans of the TV show Outlander, or the books Outlander by Diana Gabaldon, you absolutely adore this series. It follows Serene, and she's this girl who runs an antique shop basically, and she finds this picture of the guy, and she somehow feels connected to him because she had a dream about him in the previous night, and she accidentally travels into his time in 1912, I believe, and she goes into the body of his wife at the time, and basically she's married to him because yeah, and it's really complicated, but absolutely I love it. Also, she convinces him that she's not his wife and she's someone else, and they begin to form this partnership, then friendship, and he helps her go back into her time, but then they end up falling in love, and it's absolutely incredible, and they need to fight in order to stay together because time keeps trying to tear them apart. It's so good, guys. You definitely should read it, but be prepared for book 2 because it's super angst filled and it's super stressful. I have never felt this type of stress for any books, but it has a good ending, I promise. So, guys, definitely read it. Next, I want to talk about Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. This is a really good book and super emotional. I mean, I cried, and I never cry with books. This is a story about Miles, and I can't remember the girl's name, I'm sorry, but maybe it will come to me after I'm done with the synopsis. So Miles has suffered tragedy in the past, and he has shut out his heart to any love until he meets this girl who is the sister of his best friend, brother's sister's best friend, brother's sister, basically, this trope, and they start having these friends with benefits, like only physical relationship, but the girl keeps trying to draw the line because she needs to protect her heart because she starts to fall for him, but he always crosses it and confuses her, and then always end up hurting her basically. But he does the right thing in the end, and they make a really good couple, and there are some really fun scenes to read about, especially when they go to her parents for Thanksgiving. That is a really nice scene. Also, when her brother finds out, it's also super fun. But yeah, it's a really good book. I gave it like 4.75 out of 5 stars. It's really good. Most people are actually obsessed with this book, but not for me, but I really did enjoy reading it. Now, next is a series that I'm really excited to talk about with you guys, and that series is Holiday Mask Men series by Molly Doyle. This has now 2 books, and it previously was only about 1 book, but Molly Doyle has graced us with another book a few days ago, and the first book is Scream for Us, and the second is Melt for Us, and it's really graphic sexual content, be aware. But the first one follows this girl queen who goes into a Halloween party and meets these three guys, Ghost, Michael, and Jason, and they end up having this sexual, sort of possessive, sort of weird threesome relationship, basically actual relationship, not just sexual. But in the second book they go on Christmas vacations, and they spend all Christmas in a cabin together, and basically that's it. It's a really fun time to read these books, especially if you read one on Halloween and on Christmas. They are perfect for this time of year, and they're super fun reads. Next is the Bloodline series by Miss Richelle Mead, and I can't believe I'm finally reviewing this series, because I have been saying for I think 5 or 6 years that I plan to read this series after reading a long reading Vampire Academy, and I'm happy to say that this series has surpassed Vampire Academy for me, and I never expected that to happen. And this book follows Sydney, who is an alchemist, and Adrian Ivaskov, who is a Moroi / vampire. They basically, this book follows after the events of the Vampire Academy series, and we see here Sydney fighting for her place in the Alchemist after helping Rose in the previous books, and in her search for Dimitri and saving him and all of that. Because the alchemists hate Moroi very much, they begin not to trust her, and they want to drag her Gangan sister into the organization, but she wants to protect her, so she steps up and takes the mission of going to Palm Springs to protect Jill, Princess Moroi. Adrian goes there too, because we find out later why. I can't tell you because it's a spoiler. And basically they start having this enemies to lovers relationship, because Sydney has been raised in her whole life to learn to hate Moroi and find them disgusting and all of that, and be afraid of them. But then Adrian comes along, and he basically turns her whole mind around and teaches her that not all vampires are bad, and they become friends. Then they become a couple, and it's everything. I did love the series more just because in Vampire Academy it's more life or death and cosmic relationship, and they only get together in the last book basically, and this they get together from the third book, and then it happens and everything is perfect. Perfect is a relative term, but still, and I'm so here for that. Next is Dear Honeymoon by Christina Lauren. This is a perfect summer read for anyone who loves romance and fake dating, and it's incredible. Basically, there is this girl, I think her name is Olive again. I think something with this name this year, I don't know. But she goes to her sister's wedding, and basically her sister and her husband can't go to their honeymoon because everyone got food poisoning except Olive and this other guy, Ethan, who is the brother, I think, for the groom. So they decided to pose as the groom and bride to go to Hawaii for I think a week or 2 weeks, something like that. So they hate each other basically because there has been this misunderstanding or something, and basically they become close in the trip, and they start dating in the trip, and then everything goes to hell. But this couple is so well written, and I really loved reading about them. They had such a good enemies to lovers relationship, and also the fake dating was super fun because her new employer sort of showed up there, and he didn't know that she was married, and she had to say that she was married because someone might hear them and kick them out and all of that. But it was super fun, 5 out of 5 stars. I recommend highly recommend that you guys read this book. It's so good. Is Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. This was my most anticipated release of the year, and I'm so happy that I ended up loving it as much as I did. I think just because I really love this character in the Caraval series, I ended up loving it so much in this book. Jax is just an incredible character, and I really loved seeing that we saw him how he was before the events of the Caraval series and after the events of the Caraval series, and how much he had changed. He had become basically nice-ish, and how he was suffering after what happened with him and Donatella, and how he is trying basically to, I think he's trying to help Evangeline, and I think he was the good guy in the end of this book. We just Evangeline didn't know that she could trust him because he had betrayed her in the past before the events of Caraval. I know it's really confusing, but if you have read Caraval and then read this one, I promise you will love it so much. The last series that I want to talk about is the Belgrave Dynasty by Callery. This has now 2 books, and the third one will come out in 2023, or so was told by the author. But this series is a spin-off for the Surviving Time trilogy by Callery, and the first book follows Livingstone, who is the brother of Etienne, the protagonist from the first book, and the second book follows his Etienne's sister, Nat, and Asa. So the first book I absolutely adored. It's called The King of the South, and it was totally incredible. I loved Livingstone in the trilogy, and I loved how he got his own book, because he really did suffer by the end of the trilogy, and I really wanted him to get a happy ending, and I'm so happy that he got it in the end. The next book is called Lady Goodlian, and it's called Nat and Asa, like I said before, and their stories is epic because we got to see them a little bit struggle and all that in the trilogy, and we didn't really have any background story, so we couldn't really see them. We just knew that they had a little bit of a nightcap, and Nat had feelings for him, but we didn't know anything about him. So here we got this backstory, and basically their story is going to split into 2 parts, this book and the book that will come out in 2023. So you guys should really be prepared if you're going to read this one, because we don't have the next book yet, and it's killing me. So yeah, it's really good, and we see here Nat coming back after her husband has died, and is determined to finally confess how she's feeling to Asa, but that all goes to hell because he's getting married. So she goes to crash his wedding, then he sees her, but he still ends up marrying, but he does have feelings for Nat, so it is complicated because his wife is a real bitch, because she pretends. Never mind, I can tell you. I'm sorry, I almost spoiled everything, but trust me on this, you just gonna have to hate her. But I really am dying to read the next book, so I hope I can get an arc. I will email anyone that I can think about, so hopefully I will be able to do it. Sorry. Keep in mind that this series is going to have 10 books, and Callery answered this question that I asked on Instagram, that there will be other characters from that made an appearance in the Surviving Time trilogy that will get their own book in this series and their happy ending. So I can't wait, because I'm pretty sure that I don't remember any of the other characters except for the main ones, so this will be a fun time for me. So that's it for my video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, and stick around for more. Also, I would really appreciate if you guys could check out all my links, will be down below, and I will see you for my next video very soon. Bye!